From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, and welcome to it as we kick off another brand new day here of the program. Glad to have you on board as we get into it. Thank you for being here. Three big things this hour. Number one, in Virginia, the so-called moderate Democrat governor, after unveiling 50 new tax proposals on the citizens, is now rolling out 15 draconian gun control laws to disarm as many people as possible. Number two, the Supreme Court appears to be ready to ban all mail-in ballots that arrive after Election Day. That would be another big blow to blue states. We'll keep an eye on that. And number three, more signs this week and over the weekend that the conflict in Iran is not going to be for a forever war that the mainstream media and Democrats are trying to make it out to be. And honestly, I believe they're secretly hoping for it to destroy the president and the midterms for Republicans. President Trump stepped up to the microphones yesterday with this announcement. Listen closely.
We have had very, very strong talks. We'll see where they lead. We have major points of agreement. I would say almost all points of agreement. Perhaps that hasn't been conveyed. The communication, as you know, has been blown to pieces. They're unable to talk to each other. But we've had very strong talks. Mr. Witkoff and Mr. Kushner had them. They went, I would say, perfectly. I would say that if they carry through with that, it'll end that problem, that conflict. And I think it'll end it very, very substantially. They want very much to make a deal. We'd like to make a deal, too. We're going to get together today by probably phone because it's very hard to find a country. It's very hard for them to get out, I guess. But we'll at some point very, very soon meet. We're doing a 5-day period. We'll see how that goes. And if it goes well, we're going to end up with settling this. Otherwise, we'll just keep bombing our little hearts out.
Boom. Leadership, the art of the deal in real time. While the Biden-Harris crowd spent years coddling the mullahs and watching them race toward the bomb and a lot more missiles, Trump picked up the phone, applied real pressure, got some of them to fold on having a nuclear weapon. At least that's what he is telling us right now. Here's more.
So you said there's many points of agreement with Iran right now.
Many.
What, can you give us a
Many, like 15 points. 15 points.
Iran has said yes.
Well, they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. That's number one. That's number 1, 2, and 3. They will never have a nuclear weapon.
They said yes to that?
They've agreed to that.
Yeah, there you have it. He didn't beg. He didn't apologize for America. He made it clear that the era of weakness is over for this country. And get this, his administration isn't even wasting time with the supreme leader hiding in his bunker. No, they're dealing directly with the top guy inside Iran, a real power player who actually makes decisions. At least that's what we're told. Trump's team cuts through the regime's usual smoke and mirrors, went straight to the source, one that's willing to negotiate, apparently. Here it is.
Who is Steve Witkoff speaking with, Mr. President?
A top person. Don't forget, we've wiped out the leadership phase 1, phase 2, and largely phase 3. But we're dealing with the man who I believe is the most respected and the leader. It's a little tough. We've wiped out everybody.
Is that the Supreme Leader?
No, not the Supreme Leader.
So
we don't.
Not much talk
Well, nobody heard of the second Supreme Leader, the son.
Are these direct?
We have not heard from the son. In all fairness, everybody's been killed from the regime. They're really starting off. There's automatically a regime change. But we're dealing with some people that I find to be very reasonable, very solid. The people within know who they are. They're very respected. And maybe one of them will be exactly what we're looking for.
We'll find out, but that's how you win. That's how you end wars before they drag on for a decade. The fake news outlets are already screaming unprecedented like it's a bad thing. Unprecedented is right, unprecedented success. Iran is denying that the talks ever happened because they don't want to look weak, but UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who is weak and refuses to be a significant help, says even he knows that these talks took place. Here he is.
Well, my very strong view is we need to de-escalate and bring an end to this conflict as swiftly as possible. And we've been working with a number of countries in that regard. And to that end, I welcome the talks reported between the US and Iran. And to be clear with the committee, we, the UK, were aware that that was happening. And the immediate priority has to be a swift resolution of the conflict and delivering a negotiated agreement which puts tough conditions on Iran, particularly in relation to nuclear weapons. So that's the sort of number one priority.
Number one priority. But he's not going to do anything, not anything to help make that a reality. He'll just let President Trump do the heavy lifting while he criticizes him and, of course, sends us the bill for everything else that they need to defend themselves. Thanks to these productive talks, a 5-day ceasefire currently in effect as we sit here. And meanwhile, the world is lining up behind America. Again, more than 20 countries, more than 20, have now signed on to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. That's the critical choke point where 20% of the world's oil flows, even though it's only 2% of the oil that we use here in America. Iran tried to squeeze it shut, thinking they could blackmail the world. Trump said no. He called in allies, and now we've got a coalition ready to keep those shipping lanes wide open. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, even some European partners who finally woke up and realized Trump's America is the only reliable partner any of them have. This isn't some NATO paper-pushing exercise. This is coordinated naval power, intelligence sharing, and enforcement muscle that says, play nice, get your act together, or get out of the way. The mullahs thought they could disrupt global energy and spike prices to hurt American families. It's worked to some extent. But they're also watching their leverage evaporate. You can already see the result in the markets, and it's glorious. Right after the cessation announcement dropped, oil prices took a nosedive, down to over 8% in a single trading session. Gas at the pump is leveling out and starting to trend lower. We haven't even hit the weekend yet. Stock market also loving this. The Dow jumped nearly 700 points in the first hour of trading. Tech, energy, defense, everything in the green. Investors know stability when they see it. They're more confident about the possibility of a strong America under Trump as opposed to the senseless chaos and inflation we've suffered for 4 long years under Joe Biden and his hapless crew. It's all beginning to come together, all right? It is. Now, I know there's some trepidation, some concern, some people that thought we got into this war for the wrong reasons. Well, stand back. Donald Trump doesn't answer to anyone if you haven't figured that out yet. He makes his own decisions based on the information he has, and I believe he's getting pretty good information, at least thus far. Not everybody agrees with me. That's okay. This is my take on where we stand today. American strength, restoring a sense of confidence in the Middle East. First time in my lifetime that we can say, look, we have a real chance here for long-term stability. I'm with him on it. Not sure you are, but I am. I'll take a break and be back. It is the Steve Gruber Show. I have confidence that this will conclude in a way that we are satisfied with. I don't have a timetable for you. I don't. Couple of weeks, couple of months. It depends on what happens in the end of this 3-day period now. It was 5. Now we're down to about 3 days left on this ceasefire. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna of Florida shared her confidence in the end of the conflict. She was on the Bill Maher show when she said this.
Yeah, I think, I guess one of the biggest announcements that just happened about maybe 43 minutes ago is that he announced that they're going to be winding down operations. And look, I've been on the phone with the White House from the very beginning. Obviously, being a veteran myself, you know, my husband, for goodness sakes, was shot in Afghanistan. So for me, the last thing I want is boots on the ground, and I would never vote for that. But to be very clear, the president and the White House had never advocated for that as well.
He said he might do it a couple of weeks ago.
I think internal conversations with the White House that we're having are maybe different than what, you know, is out there. Remember, President Trump has been very good
came out of his
at
mouth.
using President Trump in private conversations, as well as the White House, though, has been very clear that they're not.
So you would split
as
with him if he
objective.
put boots on the ground?
Well, I don't think that he's going to. I mean,
But you would?
Yes, I
You
would.
would?
But I will tell you this, that in my discussions with the White House, that's never been something that's actually being discussed.
All right, so there you have it. She would do it if necessary. I don't want boots on the ground. You don't want boots on the ground, but I have a lot more confidence in Trump's ability to prevent that from happening than I would in anybody else in this position today. Trump is a respected world leader despite what they say in the mainstream media, despite what Democrats say. And I think negotiations are going to continue to prove that. But don't think for a second the Iranians rolled over without one last desperate tantrum. Reports confirm they tried, emphasis on tried, to lob missiles toward our critical base at Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. That's 4,000 kilometers. 4,000 kilometers. Almost double what Iran said their missiles were capable of. Again, proving they lied. By the way, that is our unsinkable aircraft carrier in the middle of nowhere. The strategic jewel that keeps the whole region in check is Diego Garcia. Iranian commanders, or whoever's left running the regime, and nobody knows who that is, sent 2 missiles toward our base. One shell fell short of its target. The other was shot down short as well. Not a single asset was affected, nor any American lives lost, but it did showcase the kind of threat that Iran has been becoming. This is what they've been doing. Everyone said they didn't have missiles capable of reaching that far, except Donald Trump. He did during the State of the Union. That threat has always been real. Another thing that Luna confirmed while speaking with Bill Maher. Here's more.
Okay. The day after it happened, I think this is important for people to know. I talked to Secretary Rubio within 24 hours of everything going down. And what I will tell you is, and we can probably get into the issue of whether or not there was an imminent threat, which in my belief there was, but there was this thing called the Nazir Plan. And that was basically, if they were hit at all, that they would retaliate. And as you saw in Tulsi's hearing that she did the other day, she said part of her job at ODNI is to actually provide the threat analysis of potential outcomes for if that were to take place. And it is my belief that they would have basically resulted in mass fatality for our troops in the southern portion of that region.
Well, you seem to know some stuff we don't.
Well, that's why I'm here to kind of have the discussion, though, because I think
I mean, you know,
like people have the right to be concerned.
You know,
Of course, we all have a right to be concerned, but the bottom line is this: whether or not you trust the person you voted into office. The 5-day pause isn't a weakness, it's a strategy. Trump has been clear. He plans to use the time to finalize the deal, verify every inch of it, and make sure the mullahs understand the consequences if they cheat. We've got eyes in the sky, sanctions ready to snap back harder than ever, and military options on the table that make their hand pretty clear. Their hair is on end. Remember, this is the man that got the Abraham Accords signed and has helped end more than a handful of wars just in the last year. And now Iran's staring down the barrel of total isolation and annihilation. That's the Trump doctrine in action. For years, we watched Iran fund terrorists, attack our troops, threaten Israel, race toward nukes while American presidents sent them birthday cards and cash. Trump changed the game the first time. Maximum pressure, Soleimani gone, no new wars. In his second term, he's finishing the job. The regime knows the clock is ticking. Their economy is in ruins. Their proxies are getting rolled up, and their own people are just waiting for the right moment to rise up again. 20 nations signaling that they're choosing the side that actually wins by standing with us on the Strait of Hormuz. The mainstream media will spend the next week hunting for some angle to call this a failure. They'll cry about human rights while ignoring the Iranian people finally getting a chance at real freedom. They'll whine about escalation even as gas prices begin to fall and markets celebrate, but we know better. MAGA knows better. So keep the faith, folks, please. This 5-day window is just the beginning. I pray the full deal is coming. Ironclad, verifiable, and enforced by American strength. One thing I'm sure of, Iran will never have a nuclear weapon on Donald Trump's watch. That is for sure. One more bit of breaking news you may have missed from yesterday before I wrap this up this morning. Markwayne Mullin has been confirmed to lead DHS. Now the question is, how does that impact the SAVE Act and votes by the U.S. Senate? You can't be a senator and the Secretary of Homeland Security. You can't do both. But Markwayne Mullin's in 54-45. John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, Martin Heinrich of New Mexico voting to confirm Mullin. So 2 Democrats came across. Of course, Rand Paul, yeah, he said no. I know you're surprised. And that's the monologue. Tired of taking vitamins that don't seem to work? Protovite. It's a breakthrough liquid, formula designed to absorb quickly so your body actually uses it. When we say multivitamin, we mean it, with over 100 nutrients, including B vitamins, amino acids, zinc, and plant extracts. You get daily support for energy, focus, and immune health. Only from Victory Nutrition International. Nutrition that gets in. Start your mornings with Protovite and feel the difference. Get 20% off today, and if you subscribe, you get 20% off and free shipping forever. VNI.life/Gruber with the promo code Gruber. They're the best vitamins we found. I didn't do the research, but Ivy did. She's the health coach around this little establishment of ours. So VNI.life/Gruber. Promo code is Gruber. Go ahead, save 20%, become a subscriber, 20% off, and free shipping for life. Good to see you on this Tuesday morning. It is the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so we talk a lot about Virginia and their moderate new governor, right? Moderate, I use that euphemistically. 50 new tax proposals since she took office and got a supermajority in the Senate and the House of Delegates, right? So they're passing all sorts of things. 50 new tax proposals, 15 new gun control issues. We'll talk about that. But have you heard about this from Oregon? This is the most radical thing that I've heard anywhere in America, maybe ever, for a ballot measure. It would make hunting, fishing, and farming illegal. Yeah, really. It's called the Peace Act. It's called the Peace Act, and it would mean that you could have no animal cruelty, right? So they need 117,000 signatures to get it on the ballot for November. They're at 100,000. They're going to put this on the ballot and ask people in Oregon to outline all animal cruelty, which means hunting, fishing, farming. All of it would be illegal under this law in the state of Oregon. It's unbelievable. It's called People for the Elimination of Animal Cruelty Exemptions, the Peace Act. Cute, right? It would criminalize any activity that injures or kills animals. So anybody that is a hunter, fisherman, a rancher who harvests beef, every commercial fisherman off the Oregon coast as well, even pest control. Killing mice would be illegal in Oregon under this. IP 28 is what it's called. Look this up. This is the craziest thing. And don't think this is an anomaly. Other hard left groups are looking at similar measures in other states. Coffee powers this program, right? And 1775 coffee is a high-performance longevity-fueled elixir. 1775 took their bold, full-bodied roast and supercharged it with CAAKG, a clinically backed compound that supports cellular energy and resilience. Not just your morning boost, it's fuel to keep you strong, sharp, and unstoppable. And it's damn good coffee. Going to thank you for it. Get yours now, 1775coffee.com/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber. You're going to save 10%. Coffee's a little more expensive than it's been, so this is a deal. 1775coffee.com/Gruber. Save 10% because average, not good enough for me, not good enough for you. It's the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back. It might be the most divisive social issue of our time, transgenderism, and the surgeries performed on children, the mass doses of hormones given to children sometimes as young as 12, radical mastectomies at the same age for some kids in some places. Well, in Colorado, they're pushing back, the blue state of Colorado. Representative Scott Bottom serves Colorado House District 15. He currently serves as the lead pastor at the Church of Briargate since June of 2012, has over 30 years of ministry. 2 ballot initiatives are gathering signatures targeting transgender kids in Colorado that would prevent participation in school sports by boys and access to gender-affirming surgeries at these places still willing to do it. Scott, thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right, tell me your position on these initiatives. It looks like they've got to get 124,000 valid signatures from registered voters. I'd like to know where we are in that process, but what would this do for kids in Colorado that are being, look, transgenderism peaked in 2023. Several hospitals now, after they saw that big lawsuit where a hospital lost $2 million, are backing off completely. Detransitioners are the dirty secret of the transgender community because nobody wants to talk about them, the ones that said, oh my God, I've destroyed my life by going down this path. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we've had 3 ballot initiatives on the ballot this November that are, the 3 of them are no transgender surgeries for minors, that if you sell some child into sex slavery, you should serve life in prison, and no boys and girls sports. And I've already run all three of those as bills in our state house, and the Democrats voted unanimously against them. They just do not like the fact that somebody would take this cash cow called transgenderism away. And then also you have to remember that transgender is an ideology. It's not a sexual preference. LGB is not the same thing as TQ+. We have a lot of LGB people across the state that are helping us actually run these ballot initiatives. Those initiatives are run by Protect Kids Colorado. You can look that up. And then, like I said, I ran them as bills too.
You know, I've had the same experience talking to LGB people. A lesbian I know well, who's a big conservative, said, look, this is not what I fought for. I just wanted to be left alone. If I wanted to marry somebody that I wanted to marry, I wanted to be allowed to do that. She says, I didn't support any of this. I don't support any of this. You're right. The LGBT community in many places does not support this transgender ideology at all. I think that's an important consideration, isn't it?
Yes, it is. This is, you have to, the TQ+, and plus means pedophilia, by the way, but the TQ+ is an ideology. It's rooted in Marxism. It's a control mechanism. It's not about somebody's sexual preference, and all the things that make Marxism is what makes the transgender movement. That they're going to control your speech, that they're going to separate the family, going to take the child away, the child belongs to the state. All of these things are Marxist ideology, and this is what is pushing this agenda. And this is why it's so important that we, as the people of the United States, but also we're the tip of the spear right here in Colorado, that we have to stand up against this stuff.
Yeah, there's something else in here. The measure would also prohibit state and federal funding, including Medicaid, from being used to pay for gender-affirming procedures. Is that regardless of age?
Yes, that's regardless of age. But we in Colorado, we are a destination state for transgender surgeries. So anyone in the United States can come to Colorado. We will pay for it as the taxpayers. And there's actually a group now in Colorado that they will help any transgender individual that wants to across the United States move to Colorado, and they will help set you up with housing and a job. And Colorado is the 5th most expensive place to buy any kind of home. And so we've got people in Colorado that can't buy homes that are making good, decent salaries. But the transgender crowd comes in here because they're wanting to super saturate this crowd. And there's a few billionaires that have been involved in the turning over of Colorado into a Marxist ideology that is behind this, and it's big. It's formative.
You know, this is not a close call. This is an 80-20 issue or greater, we're going to find out if I'm right about this. And what I mean by that, Scott, is I have said for a long time I didn't realize these initiatives were moving forward. I said if you put this on the ballot in dark blue states, Colorado's still a little purple but more blue than red for sure. I said, if you put this on the ballot in any state that leans left, that gender-affirming surgeries for minors, which is basically mutilation of minors, removing perfectly good body parts in pursuit of God only knows what, that it would pass in this case and that transgenderism would lose. I believe that's going to be the case. Have you seen any polling on this?
Yeah, we do a lot of these numbers quite a bit across the state, and some of the other groups like Protect Kids Colorado have done these too. But we're looking right now in the state of Colorado for all three of these ballot initiatives are in the 65 to 85% range. The No Boys and Girls Sports is up in the 85% arena, but the state of Colorado is not okay with this. I'm also running for governor here in the state of Colorado, and so we're doing numbers constantly. And we did the numbers on my bills when I ran them. We're doing the numbers with these ballot initiatives, and the people of Colorado, the Democrats of Colorado, are pulling away from Democrat leadership. They're not okay with where this is going. Our state has become the grooming state in the United States, the transgender surgery state in the United States, and the
Scott,
Democrats are not okay.
I've got to ask you, you said every Democrat voted against it when you brought these bills through the state house. Why are Democrats okay with the butchery of children? It doesn't change your chromosomes. It doesn't change anything. We've seen girls in girls sports get seriously permanently injured competing against males. In volleyball, for example, the one girl that got a head injury and will be permanently compromised because of that. This is not a close call. And butchery of children, double mastectomies at 14, removing your penis at 14 or 15. It's a cash cow, like you said, but this is a sacrificial. It's demonic from where I sit. It really is. I'll give you the last word on it. I hope you're successful. When do you have to have the signatures in?
For the ballot initiatives?
Yes.
The ballot initiatives, all three are already approved in the
Already
state
done.
of Colorado. They're done. They will be on the ballot in November. We will see all three of these voted in. And yes, you're correct. This is evil. This is pedophilic, and it's evil, and it is a destruction of the next generation, which, by the way, anytime a society gets to the very edge of brokenness and immorality, they always start sacrificing their children. And this is where we are in the United States. As long as we let this extreme leftist Marxist group take over the United States, and they are very strong along the way in the state of Colorado. We have got to destroy this and push back.
Well, I hope once you win, and I believe you will in November, once you win, I hope this becomes a model for other blue states and people to say, we need to stop this attack on children. And I also like the deal, if you traffic children, you get life in prison. I like that too. Scott, thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir. ScottBottoms.com.
There you have it. ScottBottoms.com. He's running for governor. If you like what he has to say, go check it out. Smart measure. I'll be back. We're still on the transgender topic when we get back, but against a parent. I'll explain after the break. All right, for anybody who watches this program, you know I believe in one thing when it comes to America more than anything. That's the freedom of speech. The First Amendment is the envy of the world, and for good reason. And so this next story comes to us from Grosse Pointe, Michigan, where a father goes in with permission to his local school, a middle school, I believe, and he went back in because he had seen all these pride flags, transgender flags everywhere all over the school. So he went in with permission and took video of all these things that are being, basically foisted upon the kids. And then he posted it to social media. Almost immediately thereafter, he gets a letter from the school prompted by the superintendent saying, you're not allowed. This is back in 2024. His kid attends this school. You're not allowed to come here. You'll be trespassing. He did nothing wrong. He created no disturbance. He took a video. He didn't take it sitting down. Joining me is David Kallman, senior partner with the Kallman Legal Group. David, good morning. You are the attorney in this case, and you have now filed a federal lawsuit. In fact, it got picked up on Libs of TikTok yesterday. You're famous, Dave, for this case. Congratulations.
Well, thanks, Steve. Now, this is a real important case because it comes down to free speech, pure and simple. And can public schools instill a speech code and censor parents on what they're saying on their own private, well, it's public, but you know what I mean? It's got nothing to do with the school.
Right.
And can the schools then discipline you as a parent because you disagree with them? It really is outrageous what the Grosse Pointe school system did here.
Yeah, now this Shane Pruitt is the father's name. And I think I explained it right. He went into the school, took a video. He had permission to be there. It was after hours. There were, staff or janitors in the building, but no kids. He didn't confront anybody. He didn't create a disturbance. He went and he took a video to say, look at what's on the walls of the middle school. And shouldn't parents be allowed to know? Because, look, not all parents have the luxury to go walk around the halls of the school. They don't have time. They have jobs and obligations. So he does this. I think it was a public service. And he gets a no trespass order, which they have stood behind at this district until now you finally had to file a federal lawsuit. I mean, that's where we are, right?
That's correct. He came to an open house for the school, beginning of the school year. Everybody comes, the parents and the kids, welcome for the coming year. And he noticed these flags all around. So he went up the chain. He went to the school principal. Tell me more about this. What's being taught? He just asked for information. He was told, well, I can't help you. I can't change anything. Go to the superintendent. He went to the superintendent. He gets the same line. We aren't going to do anything. Sorry you feel that way. Then he said, how about you talk to the school board? So he contacts the school board, and one of the school board members sends him this sarcastic reply about, well, if your child doesn't like to see the rainbow, maybe he could wear sunglasses to school. I mean, it was ridiculous, Steve. Yeah. So then he posts this on Facebook on a parent group. And all it is his commentary. He doesn't threaten anybody. He's not yelling. He's not screaming. I mean, it's the video's there for anybody to see.
In fact, one of the things that was noticed when I went through this case with you, I've been aware of this case for a bit now. The biggest flag in the school was not the American flag, was not the state of Michigan flag. It was the transgender flag, was by far larger than any other flag flying in the school, obviously making it seem as if that's the most important thing, right?
Right. It's the rainbow flag that we're all familiar with. And so finally, after he posts this video and basically says to parents out there, hey, you better be aware this is being taught in our school system. You might want to speak up. The next day, the police come to his door, Steve. They don't just send him a letter, the school. They send the police with a letter saying, you are issued this no trespass order. You can't come to the school anymore, and serve it on him. And they basically threaten him in the letter saying, we're going to prosecute you if you show up at the school. And then they post his photograph in the school office with a statement saying, watch out for this guy. He's a trespasser. Let us know if he shows up at the school. I mean, like he's some kind of terrorist or something.
Right.
It's just outrageous. That's why one of our complaint counts is for defamation.
Yeah.
They defamed our client.
Well, clearly they did. It's like he's the guy that bounced a check at the local restaurant. Hey, don't take an order from this guy because he's a check. We've seen that, in our lives. Or here's the guy that steals from the store. This person's not allowed in the store. They did defame him by putting his picture up like that, as if he's some sort of a common criminal, which he's not. So, okay, these lawsuits, they're a process. They take time. Where does it go from here? And have you heard from the school?
Well, not yet. We contacted the school attorney yesterday, sent a copy of the complaint, asked him to accept service of the papers. So we'll see. If he won't accept the service, then we have to get a process server, serve everybody at the school. Then we will file a motion for preliminary injunction to lift this no trespass order, to rescind it, and we'll file that. We'll have a hearing probably within the next couple of weeks. So we'll let you know, Steve, so we can update everybody on what's going on.
But the defamation part, even if they rescind the no trespass order, the defamation part, the smearing of this parent in front of the whole community, because anybody that goes to the office to pick up their kid or to go in for any other activity, they're going to see his picture there. Oh, that's Shane Pruitt. I know who he is. I wonder what he did wrong. I mean, that doesn't go away, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's really outrageous what they did here. And the case law is so clear. You know, Steve, there are very few cases in this area of the law, the First Amendment constitutional law, that you sit there and go, wow, this is almost a slam dunk. This one is. This is just so outrageous what the school district did and the way they did it, and violating their own policies. I encourage people to read the complaint. There's so many school policies that they have imposed on themselves that they violated in this case. And we lay it all out in the complaint.
Well, I'm glad you did. And I'm glad Shane Pruitt said, no, I'm not taking this lying down. I'm glad that parents have the guts these days to say, you know what? You're not going to teach this to my kids without pushback, and you're not going to push me around as if I'm a common criminal. It's good stuff. David Coleman from the Coleman Legal Group. Yeah, please come back when you have an update. We'd appreciate it.
Will do, Steve. Thanks for having us on.
As always, thank you. He gets some interesting cases because they specialize in this area of the law. Can you imagine, you're a parent, you go to the school, you take a video with permission to be in the school, and the police show up at your door, say you're not allowed to be at the school? Oh, yeah. The left uses the courts to their advantage. It's about time we do more of that. Good morning. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Did you know? All right, I mentioned this earlier this hour, and I want to make sure you hear this. Because in Virginia, they elected moderate Democrats to take over the state, right? Governor Spanberger is a moderate. She said so. So nothing to worry about, right? Within days of taking the oath of office to be governor in Virginia, Spanberger introduced 50 new tax proposals. Let's see, there's a dog grooming tax, a dog walking tax, a repair tax for your vehicle, a repair tax for your home, just as an example, right? 50 in all. There's a whole list of crazy tax ideas from the Democrats because they want to tax the rich or they want to tax everybody. You figure it out. But here's the other part of this. The other shoe has dropped. 15 new proposals going after guns. Assault weapons ban, and they, among other things. And let's see here. Glenn Youngkin, the previous governor, vetoed 27 anti-gun bills, including an assault weapons ban. But when billionaire Michael Bloomberg got Spanberger elected in November 25, it's now an open season on gun owners. Yep. This legislation targets the most popular firearms in America, tools used by millions of law-abiding citizens for self-defense, competition, and sport. Twice as many people are murdered in this country with hands and fists than rifles of any kind, if you didn't know. Rifles are at the bottom of the list when it comes to firearms. It takes aim at standard capacity magazines. They mean anything over 15 rounds is large ammunition capacity. They're going to have some trouble with this, getting any of it through. But there are 15 new gun control laws being rolled out in Virginia. Yeah, anti-gun lawmakers began drafting numerous gun control laws immediately upon taking office. So when they say, well, I worked for the CIA, I was an analyst. I'm a moderate. I'm here to help you with 50 new taxes and trying to ban every gun in Virginia. Most of this will not make it through the Supreme Court, but the fact that they just never quit. Rust never sleeps, my friend. Neither do I most days. It's okay. We've got another big hour ahead for you. Don't go anywhere. Ivy's going to be jumping on board with us here in just a few minutes. You don't want to miss that. This is the Steve Gruber Show on a Tuesday.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit.
What's that?
All right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
Lighting the fuse on another brand new hour. Thank you for being on board with us. Fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom and giving you better information than anyone else here. 3 big things you need to know this hour. Number 1, spring break has become an annual tradition, but for some communities, they have seen enough. They're done with the drunkenness and violence. They're saying no more. Number 2, a wave of guilty pleas in those Minnesota fraud cases lead all the way to the doorstep of Attorney General Keith Ellison. Could there be bigger prosecutions pending? Sure looks like it. And number 3, the 2 most important things on my list today continue to be the abuse of power by Democrats to keep DHS defunded and, of course, the Save America Act. It's moving forward, but slowly. Looks like it might even cross a finish line at some point, which the vast majority of Americans support. Let's start with ICE taking over some of the work that is normally done by TSA agents. But first, let's have Ivy join the show. Good morning, Ivy. Good morning. Glad to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good to see you. I want to play something for you here because as you've seen, the Democrats are like, well, ICE is going to be in the airports and they're going to attack people. People are going to be scared. Well, that's not exactly what happened. Listen to this.
Agents there, what have you been seeing them doing?
Yep. Finally, we can take a deep breath here. The numbers have dropped off. The lines are getting shorter. I think the average wait time now is under 40 minutes. So if you have a flight to catch today, it's a good time to come to Hartsfield-Jackson International. Talking about those ICE agents, you can see a few behind me right there. And then I'm going to walk you this direction, and you can see some more of them gathered over here. This is what they've been doing for the most part today, is doing the patrols around the airport, talking and gathering, not really helping the public in the sense of they're not taking tickets from anybody. They're not interacting with the public we've seen so far. They're not checking anyone's ID at the TSA.
You get it. So here's what happened, Ivy. They show up.
It was effective?
It's effective. They went from 4.5-hour lines to 40 minutes. And you know what? ICE was talking to people saying, oh, you need to go down to that gate. Oh, you need to get around this way. Security's this way. That's what I saw. They're not in there doing anything but helping out, and it's a really smart move. I mean, and it's all over the internet. Mm-hmm. It's everywhere.
Well, and the people that are in the airports are experiencing it as well, which is actually really interesting because, you know, some people might go to their news sites or they're seeing certain things and they're getting an impression of ICE. And then they go into the airports and they travel and like, man, these guys are actually, or gals are quite nice.
And professional.
And professional.
Kind. Yeah, I did see one off the hook Karen screaming at him, ICE out, ICE out. And everybody's looking at her going, are you okay?
Can you get over it now? Move along so we can get through security. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Move.
Right.
Yeah. Anyhow, what do you got for us today?
Well, you know, you were talking there in the Big Three about the upheaval that happens during spring break.
Oh, boy.
And just in the last few weeks, there was multiple shootings in Daytona Beach, Florida. There were literally thousands of people on the beach, and when gunshots were fired, people just started scrambling everywhere.
Yeah.
There were as many as 5 shootings that particular weekend.
Oh, how nice.
And then, so I have, like, literally, there were like 10 things that happened in the last 2 weeks for spring break. But, you know, you get a lot of young people together and a lot of alcohol consumption, and then chaos ensues. But in Port Arnassus, I think that's how you say it, Port Arnassus, Texas, there were 5 beach shootings. A 17-year-old allegedly shot 5 people. And there was literally 100,000 people on the beach that weekend. There was a deadly hit and run in Miami Beach. There were 113 arrests on another occasion in Daytona Beach.
Why would you want this in your town?
I know. I'm like thinking,
I mean,
Daytona Beach, got on the list 3 or 4 times. I'm going, maybe we should avoid that area. And they have a massive police presence, but there are still, hundreds of arrests and a lot of things that get crazy. Well, listen, when you begin to consume a tremendous amount of alcohol, you do dumb things.
Yeah.
And then.
Yeah. But here's what I would say, because we were talking to some people when we were in South Carolina here. over this last weekend. They bring in no money. They don't spend money in the local economy. The police are overworked, overtaxed, because they've got to run from this shooting to this fight to this drunken disorder. Plus, the trash on the beach.
Oh, yeah. Someone's had to clean that up. You know, I wonder if there are some rules that need to be in place that can really allow a safe environment for everyone involved.
I don't know.
And, you know, I don't know if it's, hey, you can only have X amount of people on the beach. If you're disorderly, you're going to be asked to leave. How do you avoid these things in the future is my point. And I wonder if there are some common sense laws that can be put into place to avoid these types of scenarios. Because imagine if you're just, you know, family of four, just trying to have a good time, and you have all these young kids and chaos ensues. I mean, that kind of spoils your
Well, I think some places
vacation.
like Daytona are just saying, we're not going to do it anymore. We're just not going to do it. It does nothing for our community. It trashes our beach. The families, like you said, that want to come, they don't want to be there.
Yeah, but it's also, how do you keep it from happening too? You know, you're just going to stand there and turn people around. I guess that might be what it takes, but
maybe
might be pretty tough. Have you heard about the Supreme Court case, Watson versus Republican National Committee?
I did see a little bit of it yesterday.
Yeah. So
focused on mail-in ballots, right?
Yes. The question is, can states count mail-in ballots that arrive after Election Day if they were mailed on time? This is actually around a Mississippi law that allowed ballots to be counted up to 5 days. Now, I think there's states like Illinois that allow 14 days.
One I read allowed for 20 days. I don't remember which one. 20 days after the election, your ballot shows up, we're still going to count. No. And it sounded to me, you listened to it, what was your impression? It sounded to me, when I was thinking to Alito, they're gonna vote this out, which is going to mean that states like California and Illinois and New York, Mississippi, whoever.
I mean, this will impact about 29 states.
There you go.
But so you have to receive them by Election Day. Now, there may be a rule applied to military voters or overseas voters. But I mean, this is common sense, right? Like, everyone knows that Election Day is coming up. If you can't get your ballot in early, if there is, early voting in your state, or get there on Election Day, I just don't understand why that's so difficult. I mean, I understand that some people might have some difficulty, but it's coming up. There's so many services. You can get transportation, whatever the case may be.
Well, what the Democrats are trying to lie about, this will take away early voting. This has nothing to do with early voting. You can still vote early, but the ballots have to be in by Election Day. And I think that's really important. I have one other idea real quickly.
And if I may remind you, a lot of these laws were enacted during COVID because everything was shut down. People needed to have more time because of the mail-in ballots. They had because they had all this social distancing and people couldn't get to work. Then they required more time to count ballots. So this was. I think these laws need to be changed now because those just don't apply anymore.
I got about 15 seconds.
And it's common sense.
But I want your opinion on this because what's been put forth recently, and I think it's maybe a good idea, make Election Day a national holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Yeah. That makes sense. Then you don't have an excuse.
Ivy, nice to see you this morning. We'll see you again next hour. Love you.
I love you. Thank you.
All right. Great to have her here as always. Chaos on the beach. Would you take your family? By the way, you can send us emails. SteveGruber.com. SteveGruber.com. Tell us what you think. What do you want to hear about in the program? What's happening in your neck of the woods? You got a big breaking story? SteveGruber.com. I'll be back after this. All right, back to it now. I'm glad to have you on board. Appreciate the kind words in the chat. Ivy and I building this show as we move forward, along with, of course, Anthony behind the scenes back there, giving me all sorts of, advice all the time, that sort of thing. But we will continue to grow this show. It's going to make it the best darn morning show you can have as we continue to get better every day. Joining me now, Duggan Flanagan is a senior policy analyst for CFAC. That's the Committee for a Constructive Tomorrow, a former senior fellow at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Duggan, thank you for being here.
Well, good morning.
Good morning. Look, Kristi Noem was not real popular at the end of her tenure as the Secretary of Homeland Security. Mark Wayne Mullen was confirmed yesterday, so that's out of the way. But she was not fired. She was put into this new signature hemispheric role. It's a big move. Trump keeps her in the administration, says she has an important role to play. What are your thoughts?
Well, here's my first thought. Kristi Noem was assaulted, in the press long before she was appointed to her job at DHS. She's been, a target ever since they realized that she was a white woman, a woman who had influence. So naturally, the media went after her as Ice Barbie. Remember Ice?
Oh, yeah.
She became Ice Barbie. That's just not that kind of slur should never happen.
Can you imagine?
So
you make a great point, Doug.
She was subject of slurs from the beginning. Like any other woman or person of color who arises to racist, because the media wants to portray the Republican Party as a bunch of white men.
Right, and can you imagine?
So, any person who's not a white man is going to be attacked.
Can you imagine if they did that to a Democrat woman and called her Ice Barbie or anything else? My gosh, they would go crazy.
We can talk about Jasmine Crockett, but then she kind of made herself that way.
Yeah, but if you go
made
after
herself a target
somebody
because she faked fake accent. But yeah, you're right. It's terrible.
It is terrible. All right, so this new rule. Tell me about the new rule.
Well, the president has said that the Shield of the Americas is a military coalition to eradicate criminal cartels, and 17 Latin American and Caribbean nations signed on to it. So she's been working with these people at DHS, on the deportations. So she knows all these people. She's worked with, Hegseth and Rubio, and she knows them well. She's part of a team, She's been part of this team for long before the election.
Yeah, and here's what we saw. And, I want people to understand this. While the Iran war has been going on, this didn't get a lot of notice, but the United States military teamed up with Ecuador to go after drug cartels.
Yes.
This is a great example of what's happening in the Western Hemisphere. Donald Trump shut down what was a functioning drug hub in Venezuela because it wasn't just drugs, it was selling oil illegally, running drugs, human trafficking. That was an epicenter of criminal activity in Caracas and throughout Venezuela. So they shut that down. Now they go to Ecuador with Ecuador's invitation. They shut down the drug cartels there to a large extent. They being the Trump administration, are taking over the Western Hemisphere and saying, not in our backyard anymore, aren't they?
Well, it's a real funny thing because I was in Texas when George W. Bush was running for president, and his campaign was all about creating a century of the Americas, a foreign policy initiative arguing the future of the U.S. will be intrinsically linked to its Western Hemisphere neighbors. And as soon as the Chads came out and 9/11 came out, yes, they went perfunctorily through all this, but it was all show and mirrors. There wasn't any real substance to that campaign after 9/11, the Council of the Americas met and they did a lot of this, but there was no lasting benefits.
Once again,
and as you look through the Bush administration years, you find that they did a lot of this, a lot of that, but it was really it was like the same old,
Well, and that's the difference. That's the difference with this administration, Duggan. Donald Trump comes in and does what other presidents have talked about. He comes in and does with Iran what other presidents talk about. He comes in and does with Venezuela what other presidents talk about. He comes in and strengthens, as you mentioned, 17 Latin American and Caribbean nations got together. What other presidents talked about, he makes a reality. And of course, the Democrats scream and in the national press like the New York Times and Washington Post and those clowns. They go after him for doing what was promised and never delivered by Republicans and Democrats alike my entire lifetime. It's true, isn't it?
Well, that's the difference between Kristi Noem and some of the people who are working for George W. You know, she's a tough customer who's going to get things done. I mean, we go back here. Here's the Bush administration in 2005. In the Western Hemisphere, we have formed flexible coalitions with countries that share our priorities, and they listed a bunch of them. And we will promote a truly democratic hemisphere. Did they do that? They didn't do that. Nothing like that ever really happened. But Trump, I mean, look at the people, look at the Latin American leaders now all over the place who are becoming, allies of Trump. I mean, we have, Chile, we have Argentina, we have Ecuador, you say, and here and there, and more countries along the way. Yes, Brazil is in the other direction right now, but that can change again.
Yeah, that's going to change. What I think of when you say all that, Duggan, is a lot of these presidents were all talk and no action. Donald Trump was all action and a few mean tweets along the way for spice. That's what I get out of it.
Well, the thing is, the difference is he's an executive. He's actually led, a billion-dollar corporations. Most of these guys are career politicians. They have, if they did have some, shall we say, private sector experience, it was mostly something that they was sort of put in their lap to look like they did something. But they weren't really the ones running the show.
Yeah, never were.
I mean,
Duggan, I got to leave it there. Always appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you being here. We'll see how this continues, but it's been good so far. And Kristi Noem is doing fine.
I think Kristi Noem is going to be a great person for this job because she knows how to get things done.
There you go. Thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you very much.
Greatly appreciate it. Now, do this for me this morning, if you would. Follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, Getter, TikTok. Same for Ivy, by the way. Do the same thing. Follow her. Let's grow that thing up. She's not real active on social media. Maybe I can get her excited to do it, all right? Good stuff. I like what's happening in the Western Hemisphere, by the way. I'll take a break and be right back. It's a Tuesday morning on The Steve Gruber Show. All right, welcome back. Anthony, I'm going to give you a little surprise here. But let's go ahead and promote Forgotten America, if it's all right with you. The new podcast dropped yesterday from the Common Sense Cowboy, Patrick Doranson. A fascinating conversation with a guy who left the corporate world, grew the world's greatest mustache, and we had just a whale of a conversation. Here's a preview.
We tend to listen to the voices that are hollering the loudest and not the ones that are getting up and going to work, or the young men and women who are out and defending the country this very morning. And, all of that stuff, we let the squeaky wheel dictate things, and we got to back up the young people that are doing the right thing. We've got to point them out as much as we can as examples. And we don't have to punish the other ones. There's not, this isn't about reward and punishment. This is about that's the way to be.
That's right.
If this country, which is going to be 250 years old, is to survive another 250 and beyond, we have got to go inside ourselves. If you think that politicians who created this mess are going to fix it, you're dead wrong. So we have to fix it the societal parts ourselves. It ain't about passing laws. It ain't about signing anything. It's about us as Americans taking the good parts, getting rid of the bad parts, and making sure that we can survive going forward. Because forget 250, if we're not careful and we keep ripping this old place apart, ripping Old Glory apart, I don't know if we're going to make it another 2, let alone 250.
Oh, we're going to make it. Great conversation, though. We've got a whole catalog of them there. Kyle Rittenhouse was our first. Tiffany Ciance talking about private equity and how it's messing with your life every day. Another great conversation. There's a whole host of them. Coming shortly, Susan Kokinda. She's on this thing called Promethean Action. And she has a whole different take on how the British have been manipulating the world economy and America, too, for more than a century. And says that's why the British aren't helping with Iran, because it upsets the apple cart for them, takes money out of their pockets, takes power away from them. All good stuff. All you have to do is go to YouTube. It's right there on your screen. Click on the QR code. Become a subscriber. It's free. And you get more of me and Ivy. I mean, how do you beat that? Best deal you'll get today. I'll be right back. All right, let's just jump right back into it. We're going to continue this conversation about the Western Hemisphere, because what Donald Trump is doing needed to be done for decades. But you're seeing a change, a sea change. El Salvador, Honduras, Costa Rica, Argentina, Chile, and the list goes on, Countries that were once socialist or cesspools have rejected the socialism, brought in populist, right-of-center leadership. I mean, look what Milei has done in Argentina. It's remarkable. And right next door, Chile. Now, in just the last few months, going the same direction with the election of President Jose Antonio Cast. It's resetting everything, and it's important. Valerie Huber is the president of the Institute for Women's Health, joining me to discuss this further. Valerie, thank you for being here.
Good morning, Steve. Great to be here.
You know, and I've always thought this. Look, Central and South America are very Catholic. So they believe in faith, in family, and women's rights, in health, and going to church on Sunday, and taking care of themselves and their countries. And so this rejection of Marxism and socialism is really a turn back to who they really are, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really remarkable. I mean, since April of 2025, we've seen 5 elections of conservative presidents in Latin American countries. And in the last 2 to 3 years, there have been 10 conservative presidents. There had been previous to this a real turn towards socialism, even communism in some of the countries. People are rejecting it. They have, for the most part, still traditional values that value life, value family, value self-governance, and it's very encouraging and inspiring to see this return. And I have to say that it was particularly encouraging to be there for the inaugural festivities of President Cast, who isn't just speaking things. He has shown over the last number of years that he is a man that's guided not by political ambition, but he's willing to make tough choices because of the values that he genuinely believes in. And so I'm really encouraged and hopeful for Chile.
Yeah, congratulations on being there for the inauguration. It was probably a terrific event. The people are thrilled. And you look at the other things that have happened. Venezuela, no longer the hub for criminal activity. I mean, that was a hub for criminal activity, not just drugs, but illegal oil, human trafficking, the list goes on. I mean, it was basically the clearing center, the Walmart for crime, and it serviced not just the Western Hemisphere, but the entire world, and that's been shut down. And of course, the next big prize, if it happens, and it looks like it very well could, would be Cuba. And wouldn't that be a remarkable change since 1959? I mean, Cuba used to be a world-class place. Havana was a world-class city. People flew in from all over the world to go to Havana, Cuba. People wouldn't cross the street to go to Havana today. But there is hope in the future, isn't there?
Well, there is. And you mentioned El Salvador just a moment ago.
Yeah.
I think what happened there was remarkable. It was the #1 crime capital, I believe, of the world. And now it's safer than the United States.
It's safer than Canada. Think about that. Yeah. El Salvador went from being the murder capital per capita of the entire world. More people were killed there, murdered there, slaughtered there. And then CCOT came in, the big prison, and they changed everything. They don't mess around with it, and it's now safer than the U.S. or Canada or a lot of other places. And that's the kind of transformation we're talking about. It's a return to faith and family, the family unit, going to work, capitalist principles, not socialist principles that does nothing more than equalize misery. I mean, this might be the most important foreign policy things that Donald Trump is doing. And what happened in Ecuador, where they went in and went after the drug cartels here a couple of weeks ago as part of this new deal that Kristi Noem is running. I mean, there is so much good news coming out of the Western Hemisphere. You can't help but be encouraged.
Well, I'm encouraged, and I served in the first Trump administration as special representative for global women's health. And there's a legacy piece that came out of that administration that I was honored to be a part of, and that was the Geneva Consensus Declaration, which is a coalition of nations that say, when we're talking about women's health, it has to be real women's health. We need to support the family as foundational to society. We agree that there is no international right to abortion and the sovereign right of countries to defend their people. That coalition has grown from 6 countries when President Trump was first in office to now 40 countries, with the U.S. being one of the most recent. When I look at the Americas, our closest neighbors, I see an opportunity for that coalition to grow. And what does that mean for the Western Hemisphere? And what does it mean for the world? It means that countries are not just standing alone for these founding principles, but they're standing together, which more than multiplies their importance. So I'm encouraged about the president and Secretary Rubio's emphasis on the Americas because they are our closest neighbors. There have been some real hot spots, and you've mentioned most of them. But I see an opportunity here to take good that was done in the first Trump administration, accelerate it on the really important foreign policy decisions that have been made in this second administration. And now with these elections, not only in Latin America, but around the world, but focused on the Americas right now, we could see things become much more permanent in a good way at the conclusion of these 4 years than I think any of us suspected or even hoped for.
No, it's a very pleasant surprise. And as these countries continue to vote in conservatives, most recently Honduras and Chile, doing this, Costa Rica also just did it. All of these countries moving to the right. And this, as an aside, I think the world would have been better served. I'm not Catholic, so I'm not taking a shot here, but I would say that if they had chosen a pope from South America, the Catholic Church would have been better served. Just my opinion of how that would have worked out a little bit better. But political and economic stability, that's what the region's headed for, isn't it?
Yeah, and when I have talked to leaders, conservative leaders in Latin America, presidents want self-sufficiency for their country. They want economic stability, and it's just incomprehensible that under the Biden administration, when Kamala Harris was put in charge of finding the root causes of migration, when she went to Latin America, do you know what she said the root cause was? I spoke with the former president of Guatemala during that time, and Guatemala was, I think, her first visit with this new role. She told the president if only they would liberalize their abortion policies,
yeah,
Guatemalans wouldn't need to travel to our border to get abortions. She was so out of touch on the real needs in the Americas.
Not surprised by that. A lot of good news coming out of the Western Hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine reimagined and reapplied. It's really good stuff. Valerie, thank you for being here.
Hey, Steve, thanks for having me.
Yeah, really appreciate it. More of the Trump doctrine. It's working. They can take cheap shots at the New York Times or Chicken Noodle News, but the fact of the matter is these things are working in several different places, and you ought to be encouraged by that. I'll take a break. Coming up, collectibles. What's in your pocket? Is it worth a fortune? Maybe. I'll be right back. Welcome back to it as we continue the conversation. Boy, silver and gold, volatile, went way up. Silver got to like $120, but over the last few days, it took a bit of a nosedive. Gold as well, falling well below that $5,000 mark where it's been for a while. So I'm not sure why these things happen, but my next guest, he reads the tea leaves better than I do. Tom Colson, owner of Liberty Coin Service, the national trade name, of course, for his company. Tom, welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Steve. Thank you.
Seems that, a lot of instability in the world. Of course, you got this thing going on in Iran. You've got oil prices that have gotten close to, well, oil prices went up quite a bit. Now they're staying somewhere in the mid-90s, did go below $90 for a bit there. But how does this all play together? Because silver below 70 now, gold is below 4,500, at least at the moment. Why? What's going on?
Yeah, it's hard to say entirely for sure. I think part of it is maybe that it was too far too fast. I mean, you're talking 47 at the end of October up to 120 by the end of January. That's a big run, and it was just too much to digest, I think. And I think a little bit of that has run out of steam. If you'd have told me that silver was going to be $67 an ounce 6 months ago, I would have said, wow, that's amazing. I have no idea it would be that high. So in grander terms, I mean, we're still very high compared to where we were a year ago or 6 months ago even.
So that's, and look, the demand for silver in particular, it's not really going to wane. It's come down some, but I expect it to stay strong because these data centers, which seem to be being built everywhere, you can't turn in on a news program not hear about data centers these days. They need silver, right? And we have not enough silver to do all the things they want to do right now with AI, right?
Yeah, fundamentally, absolutely nothing's changed. I mean, there's new demand for silver being created all the time from data centers, other types of things too, that just is gonna compete for more usage of silver. So I don't see anything has changed really in that regard. And in terms of gold,
gold's like a store of wealth, always has been, and gold got up to $5,500 there for a bit. Now it's $1,000 an ounce less. But again, if you're in it for the long run, when I buy metal, I'm not looking to sell it in a week to make a quick profit. You and I have talked about that. I'm in it for the long run. I think people that are in it for the long run, 5 years from now, who knows where it'll be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, fundamentally, nothing's changed with the gold market either. A lot of what drives the price of gold is weakening of currencies, and I don't see how the U.S. dollar is going to remain strong, especially now with our commitment to be involved in Iran as well. And I don't think that's going to wrap up in 3 weeks. So that's a lot of expenditure going forward for who knows how long. That's just another drag on the value of the U.S. dollar.
I agree with that. Yeah, the dollar gets a little weak. The yen has been fluctuating as well. And, all these world currencies kind of have an impact on everything. Now, let's talk about some coins this week. Now, here's what we do for you, the listener and the viewer. If you go to coins@stevegruber.com, send us an email, coins@stevegruber.com. You can send in your collectibles. And by the way, it could be baseball cards. It could be other collectibles. He's seen it all over the course of his career. And he collects a lot of it himself, and so he understands it well. But today we've got coins. The first one looks to be a peace dollar from 1926. And so what we do here is we put it up here. This one comes to us from Lynn. Lynn sent this in, and we appreciate that. And this is a fairly common piece, but I think they're a neat piece. What is it worth?
Yep, nice old peace dollar, 100 years old right now, so just nice and historic. They're pretty common. Typically traded right around their silver value right now or a little bit more. So you're in maybe the mid 50s to around low 60s in terms of retail value. The price of silver is changing so fast, it's kind of hard to keep track lately as to where they're trading. But that's kind of where they'd be at the moment.
Right. All right. So the next one comes to us from Sven in Texas from 1957. And I'm not familiar with foreign currency the way you are, of course. This looks to be a sixpence. What's a sixpence worth? What's that worth in American money?
Well, it might be about the equivalent of what a U.S. dime would have bought. So roughly that. And they're about the same size as a U.S. dime. From Great Britain, the main claim for sixpences is that people buy them a lot for weddings because of the sixpence in your shoe. So we sell a lot of them for that.
I got you. And so, what are they made out of? Do they have a metal
Uh,
value?
This particular one is made out of copper nickel. Britain removed silver from their coinage in 1948. So no precious metal in this one. The ones before 1948 do have a little bit of silver in them, though.
Gotcha. So, retail value?
Quarter.
Quarter. See, you can own a history lesson for 25 cents. What a bargain. What a deal. Now, the next one here, I've always liked this coin, only because I find it to be an oddity. They made 2-cent pieces. They made 3-cent pieces, did the U.S. mints. This is a 2-cent piece from the Civil War. Looks to be in pretty good shape to me.
Yeah, it's a nice presentable coin. This is the large motto variety. There were 2 varieties issued in 1864. The scarcer is the small motto variety. But this one's a nice presentable coin. It was the first coin in the U.S. to have the motto "In God We Trust," which you see right there prominently above the shield there. Coin like this is probably $35 retail now. So just a nice collectible coin and a cool thing. A lot of people don't know that the U.S. made 2-cent or 3-cent coins.
Yeah, I always find them to be fascinating for that very reason. Again, if you have coins or collectibles, you got them from the flea market, or you inherited them, or you collected them at some point and you've got them around, and you wonder, now obviously Tom doesn't see it in person, so he can't give you an exact value, but he can kind of give you the ballpark of where it may fall. Send it to coins@stevegruber.com, coins@stevegruber.com, and he's also got his finger on the pulse of precious metals markets as well. Tom, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Greatly appreciated, as always. Again, coins@stevegruber.com. Whether you got a 2-cent piece or an old silver dollar, whatever it might be, we can get it on the air here, kind of figure out what it might be worth, and share it with you here on the air. All right, we're going to take a break and be right back. This is The Steve Gruber Show. All right, let's check in on sports with our good friend Brock Palmbush. Here he is.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. We're down to the Sweet 16 of the NCAA women's basketball tournament as the last 8 second-round games were played yesterday. Top seeds Connecticut, UCLA, and South Carolina all won easily, but second-seeded Iowa was upset by 10th-seeded Virginia 83-75 in double overtime in Iowa City. Sweet 16 games are this coming weekend. There were 10 games in the NBA last night. Winners included Detroit, Toronto, Oklahoma City, and Golden State. In the NHL, there was just one game. Ottawa beat the New York Rangers 2-1 in Madison Square Garden. In the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks made Jackson Smith-Njigba the highest-paid wide receiver in NFL history yesterday, giving him a 4-year contract extension worth $168 million. $120 million of it is guaranteed. He was named the NFL's Offensive Player of the Year back in February. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. All right, so if you missed it out of Minnesota, a wave of guilty pleas in all that fraud going on, a wave of guilty pleas, which means people are finally being held accountable. And as a result of that, it's getting close to the Attorney General, Keith Ellison. The last person was a leading figure who met with Ellison on a number of occasions, Ikram Yusuf Muhammad, a consultant at Feeding Our Future. All they were doing was feeding their bank accounts, really. A nonprofit at the center of this widening federal investigation. The Justice Department said the defendants, Muhammad and her family and friends, worked together to steal and launder $14.6 million in child nutrition money intended to feed hungry kids during the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, how many of these do we have to see? It's nice to see people being convicted, but if these are people that are on the doorstep of Governor Walz, of A.G. Ellison, then I hope this is just the warm-up act, and that other people high in the Minnesota state government will be held to account for their behavior. Look, they turned a blind eye to this because they wanted the votes from those communities, from those districts. So they allowed the taxpayers of Minnesota to foot the bill to pay for their voters. Really is outrageous, and I hope that the hammer continues to fall. We'll continue here. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Find us on all the social media platforms and support us. We'll be right back.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, welcome to it as we kick off another brand new hour here of the program. Glad to have you on board moving forward today. Fighting for you from the foxhole freedom, putting America first every single day. Here are three big things you need to know right now. Number one, after the big pushback against mega sites around this country, now it's data centers. They're all the rage, and people don't like them in their neighborhoods. We'll talk about that. Number two, the Iran strategy showcases Donald Trump's unpredictability, leaving Iran and others wondering what's going to happen next. And number three, something else the president did yesterday that I want to get to because I think it's important. DHS remains unfunded. It is the Democrats that have done this. They try to blame Republicans. Well, Republicans are in charge of the House and the Senate and the White House. It's up to them. No, it's not. The Democrats in the Senate, led by Chuck Schumer, who is becoming a feeble old man, continue to block the efforts to fund DHS at a critical time. TSA not being funded is ridiculous. Now, the president, along with Tom Homan, brought in ICE agents to help at the airports. Of course, the Democrats screamed it's going to make airports less safe and all such nonsense. What it did was reduce wait times in some airports of more than 4.5 hours to less than 40 minutes. That's been the instant result of bringing ICE agents in just to help direct traffic, to keep people in line, to make sure they make it to security, make sure they know where they're supposed to be in the airport. It's been a remarkable success in just 48 hours. So they can continue to bump their gums, but the truth is in the pudding, and there it is, all right? The president now says, by the way, he wants to hook the DHS funding with his other major domestic priority, that is the Save America Act. Here's what he said.
So I'm tying Homeland Security into voter identification with picture and proof of citizenship in order to vote. And those two items are the most important thing having to do with Homeland Security. So it should be part of the Homeland Security bill. And I'm requesting that the Republican senators do that immediately. You don't have to take a fast vote. Don't worry about Easter going home. In fact, make this one for Jesus, okay? Make this one for Jesus. That's what I tell him. That would be a damn good thing. The most important part of Homeland Security is voter ID and proof of citizenship. Nobody can vote on Homeland Security without voter ID or proof of citizenship. And you can't have Homeland Security without voter ID or proof of citizenship. So we're tying them together.
You got to have it all. And by the way, speaking of the Save America Act, it is about voter ID and proving you're a citizen. But another key component is eliminating all these mass mail-in ballots, which were always the crux of the problem as far as I was ever concerned. It was ballots applications being sent to empty parking lots, dozens of them, and somehow those ballots would come back. No chain of custody in places like Arizona and Georgia. That's proven to be a real problem. The ballots show up, but where did they come from? Who actually cast the vote? Nobody knows. They were counted anyway. But here's something that went in front of the Supreme Court. Ivy mentioned this earlier, and I want to bring us back to this. Here's what it is. Mass mail-in ballots. Okay, I don't like them. They should go away. Early voting? Medium on it. I don't care. If you need 21 days, you don't need 6 weeks. Some states have as much as 6 weeks. 21 days would be fine. You can vote early and in person or whatever. But get rid of these mass mail-in ballots unless you're injured, overseas serving this country, or have some other reasonable explanation why you cannot appear in person to cast your ballot. Fine, we can live with that. But now, in front of the Supreme Court was a question yesterday about counting of ballots that could come in days, sometimes weeks after the election was over. One of the states had 20 days Several states had 5 to 10 days after the election was over, they would still accept mail-in ballots. And some of those states didn't even look for a date on the ballot. Didn't matter. The ballots weren't even dated. And yet here they were, being counted. So the Supreme Court is hearing arguments on this matter about a case out of Missouri, right? And Samuel Alito, the justice there, one of the best of all time, well, he really picked it apart. Listen to this.
We have lots of phrases that involve two words, the second of which is day. Labor Day, Memorial Day, George Washington's birthday, Independence Day, birthday, and election day. And they're all particular days. So if we start with that, if I have nothing more to look at than the phrase election day, I think this is the day in which everything is going to take place, or almost everything. And then we have 3 points in time, 1844, 1872, 1914. And we can ask, what would people have thought on those days is meant by this phrase, election day? Which of those should we choose? Which of those dates should we choose?
Well, I think you could choose any of the three. I mean, honestly, I think the single best one, if you're just going to choose one, is 1872. And the reason I say that is because 1914 is the latest in time, but that's the one that Congress gave the least thought to.
Yeah. All right, and how about this? How about Election Day every 4 years is a national holiday, or I guess every 2 years, national holiday. Democrats say they want the most people to vote as possible. I agree with that. I want as many people that want to vote, that want to cast a legal ballot, to vote with an ID, and I want to know they're citizens of this country before they cast that ballot. And if you have a national holiday on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November every other year, great. Let's go with that. I agree with that. One other thing about DHS before I let that go, too, by the way. Maggie Goodlander is a Democrat member of Congress. She's among those supporting the defunding of DHS, even though that has nothing to do with ICE or Border Patrol. She likes defunding DHS, and she says protecting the country is her highest priority while saying defunding is important. It's a strange thing, she says. Here, listen.
There have been concerns since the start of this war about potential cyber attacks. Is the U.S. infrastructure potentially prepared for that possibility?
Look, keeping our country safe, defending the homeland, I have no higher priority in Congress.
Then fund it. But they won't. Here's what I like about longevity wellness. It's simple and it works. One daily shake delivers protein, collagen, omega-3s, probiotics, and colostrum, supporting your gut, your joints, your brain, and your immune system. No gimmicks, no clutter, just clean, science-backed nutrition for people who want to feel better every single day. And right now, my listeners get a special discount. Go to longevitywellness.co. Use the promo code Gruber. That's longevitywellness.co. Promo code Gruber. You're going to save money. And if you become a subscriber, you'll save even more. Longevitywellness.co. This is the perfect nutritional shake for kids that are in sports, for older folks that want to make sure they're getting enough nutrition, for anybody on a weight loss program that doesn't want to lose bone or muscle. This is it. Longevitywellness.co. Use the promo code Gruber. You're going to save money because we think a lot of you. We like you. We'll be right back. Yeah, you know, we get a lot of attention here in Michigan because we have some outspoken imams that say things like death to America, and we're not here to assimilate, we're here to take over. We get some of those down in the Dearborn Heights area. Not a good look this time of the year, or any time of the year, I don't think. Joining me now is Katie Hyde. She is the Michigan News Source news director. She has her finger on the pulse of things Michigan every single day. Katie, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. So death to America. But, you know, here's the funny thing. These imams that say these outrageous things like we're not going to assimilate and death to America and death to Israel. And yet then I see them in a picture with the Lieutenant Governor, Garland Gilchrist, with the governor herself, Gretchen Whitmer. I mean, do they not understand what these folks say on tape and then disseminate on the internet? Am I missing something?
According to media reports, these pictures that these Democratic leaders were with this imam, they said this is just a part of meeting our constituents. This is a normal part of doing what we do as a politician and service to the public. But I guarantee that if a Christian pastor was consistently saying these types of things, then these Democratic politicians would denounce that. So when you have a religious leader saying death to America, and most recently, here are my notes, when the U.S. military took out the Ayatollah Khomeini, this imam said, quote, America is the most wretched hands on earth. This is a problem. And so when you have an imam who has a public Facebook page and is posting pictures with these leaders, constituents have a right to ask
wait a
questions.
second.
Say, what do you think about this?
So here's my question. If I posted death to anyone on Facebook, my Facebook page would be shut down.
It would.
Why? Anybody. You know, if I said death to whoever, I would be shut down because that violates the rules of engagement on Facebook. We know the rules well. We're involved with Facebook every day. Why are these posts allowed to just continue to propagate?
That's a great question, and that's a lot of speculation that's going on right now because it appears to me that the curtain has been pulled back on the sects of Islam here, that they are no longer hiding what they truly believe about the Jewish community, that they no longer want to assimilate into America. We have heard New York's mayor say some things that we never would have heard 25 years ago when the planes crashed into the towers. And so I feel like we have stepped through the looking glass on a lot of this stuff, Steve,
Sure.
and we really need to remain vigilant that our leaders can say one thing when they're in front of a press conference or they're on their social media, but it gets to the heart of the matter. You can only conceal that for so long before people figure out who you are. And when people reveal themselves to you, as the old saying goes, you need to believe them. And so we've got a lot of thinking to do in this country and in Michigan with who our leaders are aligning with. And a lot of these leaders are giving money to Democratic campaigns.
I see that.
And this leader here, this imam, is a stone's throw from West Bloomfield, where we had that horrific anti-Semitic terrorist attack a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Fortunately, no one but the attacker was killed, but this really puts us on high alert, and we need to be vigilant. And rather than just talk about, oh, we need to tone down the rhetoric, well, what are we going to do to make that happen? What are we going to do to hold people accountable, to say you cannot have these violent actions, you cannot say death to America and then just go on with no consequences. So people are I think, more aware of what is going on, and they're trying to just assess the situation. We are in a completely different place, Steve.
Yeah, when they tell you who they are.
Say 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah, when they tell you who they are and what they believe them. That's what you said, Katie, and you're exactly right. All right, another thing I wanted to touch here before I run out of time, these data centers. I mean, everybody knows somebody who either has one being built nearby or is proposed somewhere. These data centers are being proposed everywhere. Now, I do like the fact that Donald Trump said here recently, in the Oval Office that these data centers will have to be self-sufficient when it comes to power. That's good news. Our rates are high enough already in Michigan, that's for sure. But the Chamber of Commerce, Jim Holcomb, we know him well, said that these data centers, computing capacity, are just as important as quality roads and a reliable electric grid. So they like them because they bring in possible revenue. There's not a lot of jobs with these things after they're built. I mean, they're a room full of computers. Not a lot of jobs to go with it. But,
as well.
yeah, but the chamber likes them. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts, let's look at the thoughts of the community, where there's at least 16 proposed in separate Michigan communities. And a lot of the neighbors there have raised concerns, and rightly so. I mean, we had this phrase, old school, Steve, in the newsroom where people were referred to as NIMBYs, not in my backyard, right?
Right.
And it was kind of this negative connotation of, oh, you don't ever want progress or anything built there. No, if you're in a community, I have a right in my neighborhood to ask, how is this giant facility going to impact the energy in my community, the energy grid, water, when you build roads to have people get in and out of these facilities? How is it going to impact the neighborhood around me? And so the Michigan Chamber, to its credit, wants to get what they say is factual information about these data centers, so there's not panic. But then also at the same time, these neighbors and these communities have a right to know what is going on. Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who only has a couple of months left in her term in office, said that these data centers are going to be built. This is inevitable, and Michigan needs to be on the front edge of that. The question that I raised, though, is that in her second term in office, she was all about using taxpayer money to fund mega sites. And now these sites in Big Rapids and Marshall are defunct. Nothing is happening with them.
Not a thing.
One in Mundy Township in Genesee County just had a third business pull out. And so would data centers be the next mega site here in Michigan? I think people would argue we don't want that to happen. And GOP gubernatorial candidate Tom Leonard said we need to have some sort of law where we put a moratorium on that in Michigan for at least a year, so things can settle down, so we can research and actually know what will happen in our neighborhoods if these data centers are built there.
For this and so much more, go to MichiganNewsSource.com, MichiganNewsSource.com, MichiganNewsSource.com. Katie, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to ask Ivy about this when she comes up here in a few minutes, because Ivy used to work at really nice high-end restaurants, right? The kind where the waiter or waitress come out and regurgitate a laundry list of specials and things without any notes. And every now and then you go to a nice restaurant like that. You know, it's not an everyday thing. You go sometimes, maybe for a special occasion. But here's the headline, and I know this is going to bother her. So I have to ask, no tips. That's the new trend. No tip at all at the restaurants. And owners say it's degrading the dining experience. More restaurants experiment with eliminating tips. The idea of a no-tip dining model is gaining traction, but not without resistance from industry professionals who fear it's going to drag down service. If your wait staff can get no tip, why are they going to go the extra yard? Why are they going to do something more in hustle? If they're on a flat rate, you see, the beauty of going to a nice restaurant, or any restaurant for that matter, is to enjoy your time there. It's why you left the house, right? And if you can't reward someone for doing a great job, because look, some waiters and waitresses are just better. We've all had good ones. We've had great ones. We've also had ones that are not so great. And go, I'll give them the standard, but nothing more. We always tip well, something that Ivy's always insisted on. I don't have a problem with that. But going to a no-tip model for restaurants, I'm going to ask her what she thinks about that, because I think I would agree with the folks that say that's going to be bad. That's going to be bad for folks that are the people that serve you your dinner, your breakfast, your lunch, whatever. All right? What do you think of that? Drop me an email, stevegruber.com. What do you think about no-tip restaurant service? Here's the flat rate. They'll also raise the rate of the meal, I'm sure. I'm almost certain of that. So what do you think about that? stevegruber.com. Drop us an email. We'll take a look at it. Let you know what we think. I'll take a break and be right back. This is The Steve Gruber Show. All right, let's get back to it, shall we? I'm glad to have you here. Another great day here on the program. Really enjoying myself, as always, because I love seeing you folks out here. Now, my next guest has written a book to help women, right? To help women in tough conversations, tough situations. And it's not the old-fashioned, hey, go after it, be confident, believe in yourself. None of that. No. The book is called Duct Tape and White Lies. It's from Emily Lampkin, founder of the Women Leaders series. All right, let's dig in. Emily, how are you today?
Good morning. Great job describing the book.
Well, I try. I do my best. Actual language, to, to use in tough conversations, boundary setting, and high-pressure moments. I've heard for years, and I have 2 daughters, and I have a wife, and you hear that men get more promotions, right? That's something that came to mind when I read this. Men get more promotions. You know why? They go in and say, I want more money. Women are like, well, I would ask, but I'm not sure how they'll react, and they kind of hem and haw about it. So they never ask for the promotion or the raise or more money, whatever. But your book, I think, might address some of that. Yes or no?
It addresses exactly that. When I was out with the Women Leader series all across this country and around this world, women were asking for this book because they said, I want something, but I don't know exactly how to get it. How do I do that? And this is the step-by-step guide on how to do that, including, you hit a point dead on. We need to start asking for what we want. And the tip I give women on this, because you're right, there is a level of hesitancy to do that, is start with something small. Start with asking somebody, I'd like to learn more about you. That way, when you go and ask for that big promotion or investment money in your new business, it's a whole lot easier when you're in the practice of asking for what you want.
Sure, and let's be fair about this and honest. Let's be honest here. If a guy goes in and says, I want more money, I do X, Y, and Z, well, he's aggressive. If a woman goes in and says, I want more money because I do all these things for you, they get labeled with the B word oftentimes. Well, she's this, she's that. It is a bit of a societal issue, isn't it?
It is. One of the things that I want to make sure I do is lay out a reality, meaning we're not looking in this book to change what the reality is for women in this world. What I want to do is provide you guidance on how to get where you need to be in this reality. Hence why the title's Duct Tape and White Lies. We live in the messy middle, and women have an exceptional amount of personal responsibility, both at home and at work, and you can still have what you want. We also need to understand that there's lots of ways to do these things that work for women. In the book, it's full of these semi-small chapters I call accessories. And in those are lists of things such as ways to say no without saying no, ways to get out of hard conversations. That way, women have really a guide to use so that they are getting what they want and doing it in a way that is effective in whatever situation they're in.
Yeah, it's referred to, Duct Tape and White Lies is referred to as a practical field guide for women who want traction, not theory, and not platitudes, I guess would be the next word I would come to on that. So give me a couple of...
I've got some Midwest sensibility about me, so it's all very practical.
Which we appreciate, by the way, being from the Midwest. So give me some ideas here. What's a tough conversation that do you give examples, and what can you share?
I give examples from women's lives all across the country and frankly around the globe as well. And one of the things that was important to me about this too is women are leading in so many ways. You don't have to have the fanciest title or the most elite job to be a leader. And in fact, the problem is that most women are leaders already. They just won't admit it to themselves. So I give examples across industries and give ideas on how you go about doing this. One example I give is if you need to interrupt a man, I back up and talk about how men and women communicate differently. And if you're communicating with men the same way you're communicating with women, you are losing. And I walk you through the differences. But one of the examples I give is when I'm talking to a man, I will interrupt him if he goes on too long, but I'm not going to do it in a way that's disrespectful. Respect is key for men and key with communicating with men. So I'll say, you'll appreciate this. This gets his interest before I interrupt and before I even start to say what I'm about ready to say.
Yeah. Men want respect. Women want love. That's the way the world functions, in my estimation, in my rudimentary understanding of the world. Those are the basics. Look, Ivy, who's been my wife for many, many years now, and has become an integral part of this program. But what had to happen is she had to get pushed out of her comfort zone. So I pushed her out of her comfort zone, and she has really embraced that opportunity. Is there a comfort level for women that you kind of got to break through on some of these things, like interrupting a man?
We talk about, again, men and women's brains are wired differently.
Yeah, no
and
kidding.
One of the ways our brains are wired differently is women's brains are wired to protect ourselves. And that's okay. But to your point about you and Ivy and the show, we do need to get pushed outside of our comfort zone. And the one tip, if I have only one when I talk to women, it is to take more risks. The one thing I noticed about women who were thriving in their lives when I was observing who was getting ahead and who was happy with their life was they were taking more risks, which means they were living with less regret. And women who live with less regret are thriving in their lives.
So, less regret. But you're talking about some things here being assertive, and that's not easy for some women. It's not even easy for some guys either, to be honest with you. Anyhow, so give me the last thing here. Wrap it up for me here. And because I think this is a really important book, because I think a lot of women need to hear this. My daughter, for example, won't go ask for a raise. She's 21 years old. I should, but, maybe it can help her too. I'll give you the last word.
More than 50% of the women on this globe are unsatisfied with their life because they gave up on their dreams. And I'm not talking about those dreams we had to be a cowgirl or supermodel. I'm talking about the stuff that is fundamentally important to us. And what we do in this book is get over what I call dream slashers. All these things we do to get in our own way. And I'm telling you, together, you and me and women like us in Duct Tape and White Lies, we can get you to get what you want in your life.
There you go. A practical field guide for women who want traction, not theory. The book, Duct Tape and White Lies. Emily, thank you. Good stuff.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, when I come back, we'll have Ivy here, as we do several times a day now. And we're going to talk more of what I said about this no tipping thing. I want to get into that. I don't think she's going to like it, but I'm not sure. I'm going to have to ask and find out where she comes down on this. It's the Steve Gruber Show. You can follow us on all the social media platforms. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, where that podcast, Forgotten America, can be found. New episodes drop every Monday at 9 a.m. Ivy and I take care of that for you, too. It's all on YouTube. It's free to be a subscriber. Free. You can't beat that. I'll be right back. All right, back to it now. Ivy back in the room with us. Ivy, good morning again. Nice to see you as always.
It's always nice to see your face.
All right, I appreciate that. No tips. You served in very nice high-end restaurants. You were one of those folks that could regurgitate an entire menu from memory. I never understood that. It's a skill set for sure. But restaurants are going to this eliminating tips, a no-tip dining model. A lot of resistance from folks. What do you think of this?
So this is, you're telling me that restaurants are imposing this rule?
Correct. I thought at first when I read it, it was customers just basically stiffing the wait staff. That's not it. Hi there. It is restaurants saying that they don't want to. The shift is in response to growing frustration. We just heard this from Anthony. Hidden fees, service charges, inflated gratuities have left customers feeling blindsided when the check arrives. So we're at a point where they're like, well, let's just get rid of tipping altogether, right?
Well, I think then that the restaurants would have to increase their wages because primarily waiters, waitresses, bartenders, barbacks, service assistants, all these things that come in make all of their money through tips. So unless they're going to subsidize tips, I just don't see how that's possible. But maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know. Or they're putting a service charge. There are some restaurants that do service charges. And
right, but here's the problem, as I see it. And I never did what you did. You're out there, you're giving A-plus service.
Yeah.
The guy down the way is doing decent service, but it's not what Ivy's doing. It's not as good. So Ivy's table wants to give her 25%. The guy down the way, they want to give him 15%.
What is that, equity?
It's something like equity, yeah. But the problem is the guy who gave service that was no better than the service you gave, would you excuse me, gets the same rate. If you raise the rate of the wait staff, everybody gets paid the same. Equity.
Exactly, where all outcomes are the same, right? So it doesn't matter how excellent of a server or bartender or whatever you are. There's no incentive to do better. You know, everyone could do average, and then everyone gets paid the same. Or there's someone doing an outstanding job
who gets nothing for it,
and who gets nothing for it. So that's kind of don't think it's a great model, but I know that there are a lot of restaurants doing this, so it's unfortunate because I think, again, we're just teaching people that no matter how hard you work or how little you work,
everybody gets paid the same.
Everyone's going to get the same result.
Same benefit, right?
Yeah.
And
so I'm not a big fan of that.
I'm not a fan of that because if you hustle, if you give exceptional service, we were at a restaurant in Myrtle Beach.
If someone wanted to still give you a cash tip, I would have to imagine that you could still do that.
Oh, sure, I suppose. But, you know, we were in a restaurant in Myrtle Beach where the waitress was exceptional over the weekend, really exceptional. And she got a very handsome tip, a big table, 6 or 8 people, whatever it was.
Oh, man, she was incredible.
She was. And again, she's one of those people that, she repeated a remarkable list of things from memory.
Yeah.
And I thought it was great. So, and she should be rewarded.
Absolutely. I 100% agree.
Yeah. Anyhow, what else you got?
So let's travel over to Minnesota.
All right.
Have you heard of the other scandal that's been going on for quite some time, the Feeding Our Future scandal?
Yeah, I saw a bit of that today. I hear there are indictments, and it leads all the way back to the Attorney General's office.
Yes, Keith Ellison. So it's a nonprofit running a federal child meal program. This was happening during COVID. They were claiming to feed thousands of children daily, but there were fake meal counts, fake sites. There were shell companies that created fake invoices. They laundered money into luxury goods and overseas accounts
for themselves.
There were the ghost children, similar to what was happening more recently that we found out about in regard to the Child Care Assistance Program. The scale of this amount of fraud is $240 million to $250 million stolen.
From that one
It's the
incident.
largest pandemic fraud scheme in the United States. 70 to 80 people have already been charged. Dozens have been convicted and pleaded guilty. And there's still ongoing trials. But my goodness.
Yeah. And how is it that the governor and the attorney general, nobody in state politics had any idea any of this was going on? Please.
Yeah.
Of course they knew.
And that is, I mean, as big as that is with the child assistance program, I think that one is in the hundreds of thousands or tens of millions.
Well, the total fraud, the last number I saw out of, and I don't know if this was included in it or not, $9 billion in fraud from the child care centers to the autism centers to the home health care centers to this deal.
You know, if you could begin adding all of this fraud up, whether it's, you know, adding the numbers from Doge and then these local and state fraud schemes, I mean, we're talking trillions of dollars.
Yeah, across the country. Absolutely. I mean, look at California. Its fraud issue is far larger.
Mm-hmm.
No question.
Yeah. It's unreal.
You know,
we need to figure out how to keep the cats out, don't we?
Well, this one's been mauling me the whole segment. You know, little kitty's been here. And the people on YouTube love it. That's fine.
Oh, my goodness.
The streamers love it. He doesn't bother me during this segment because he gets something very nice. But I've got the other one out here complaining that she's not getting attention. You know, this going into our home office during COVID, which was great because we had a chance to build our own studio. You designed it and built it. But, you know,
it has its advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah. At some point, maybe we should consider a new office, a new studio space where, you know, we leave the animals at home and escape our... I mean, it's a beautiful studio. Spectacular. You're in one setup, I'm in another. The podcast is in another, but the cats, if they're in the mood, they're cats, right?
I love them.
Anyhow, love them, but sometimes they're a lot of work. Anyhow, I'm going to leave it there. Ivy, thank you. Love you.
I love you, Steve.
All right. Could you go get her?
Maybe not the cats today.
Maybe not. You still love them. They're just, animals are the greatest. They just tend to come with a bit of work. Anyhow, we'll take a break and do some final things after this. A story I want to get to tomorrow because this has been in the headlines the last couple of days. I'm going to get Ivy to weigh in on this one, too. We've all been to hotels where they have the free breakfast, right? You got the scrambled eggs and the bagels and the cereal or whatever. Well, apparently the new thing for folks who are not guests at the restaurant is to come in, stack their plates with all the free breakfast and leave. I guess it really is free if you don't buy a hotel room. Well, it's a bit of a problem. They walk out, they get coffee, food. They don't have room keys. They don't have cash. They don't have credit cards. But they got a pile of food and hot coffee. Viral videos are making the rounds of these buffet crashers. What do you think of that? Honestly, what do you think of that? I mean, I would never do that. I mean, I'm a lot of things. I don't lie and I don't steal. The buffet configurations can make it difficult for hotels to monitor who belongs in the breakfast area and who does not, according to hotel owners and operators. Because most complimentary breakfasts are in smaller limited service properties, they usually don't have the personnel resources to aggressively police whether breakfast patrons are truly guests of the hotel. And look, you're in one of these hotels, it's got 100 rooms. You don't, I mean, the night shift leaves who checked you in. The morning shift comes on. They just see faces every day. They don't know who came in last night and who didn't. They don't know who's not supposed to be there and who is. It just seems they're going to solve it somehow. You're going to have like some sort of a card that you pass over the deal to get your breakfast or something, or a card to pass to get a plate. Something is going to happen because they've got to be losing money on this. Anyhow, all they can do is ask to alert to suspicious activity, but it just seems weird. They're pilfering breakfast. They're pilfering the eggs and the bagels and the sausage and the bacon. Seems odd to me, but it seems to be a thing these days. Where have the morals gone? Fight the good fight, keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, my friends, only you can save America.